I stood in my grandfather's lawyer's office holding a pen over the declination papers while my entire family screamed at me not to sign. "Cameron, don't be an idiot," my father shouted. "That's $90 million. My mother was crying. My brothers were threatening me. But I signed anyway, giving up the entire fortune my grandfather left me. My father's rage turned to laughter. Hysterical, mocking laughter. "You just gave us $90 million, he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "You stupid, stupid boy. We tried to stop you, but you did it anyway. That inheritance gets split between us now." My brothers were already calculating their shares, grinning like they'd won the lottery. My mother hugged my father, relief flooding her face. They thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. They thought they'd won. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out a sealed envelope with my grandfather's handwriting on the front. "Grandpa told me to give you this, if I declined the inheritance. He said you'd need to read it before celebrating." My father snatched it from my hand, still chuckling about my stupidity. But as he read the first line, his face went white. His hands started shaking. And by the time he finished, he wasn't laughing anymore. Because my grandfather's letter didn't just explain why I'd given up $90 million. It revealed a secret that would cost my father everything he'd ever cared about, destroy my brothers' futures, and prove that sometimes the smartest move is walking away from money that comes with chains attached. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment and let me know where you're viewing from. I want to know I'm not the only one whose family thought they'd won when they'd actually lost everything. My name is Cameron Wells, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, where I work as a high school teacher making $52,000 a year. My family consists of my father David, who's 58, my mother Helen, who's 56, my older brother Preston, who's 35, and my younger brother Garrett, who's 29. We grew up wealthy, though not $90 million wealthy. My grandfather Arthur Wells built that fortune through decades of smart investments and business ventures, rising from poverty during the Depression to become one of Boston's most successful businessmen. The day I gave up $90 million wasn't impulsive. It was planned. Carefully, deliberately planned with my grandfather before he died. And the letter my father read wasn't just an explanation. It was a weapon we'd spent 2 years building together. Before I tell you about the inheritance I walked away from and the letter that destroyed my father, hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real stories about families who worship money and the moment they discover some things are more valuable than wealth. These stories might change everything you think about success. Let me take you back to where this really started. 3 years ago, when Grandpa Arthur was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. He was 84, still sharp as ever, and the doctors gave him maybe a year. He called me to his house one evening, just the two of us. "Cameron, I need to talk to you about my will," he said, settling into his favorite leather chair in the study. "And I need you to listen without interrupting, because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy." I sat across from him, concerned. "Are you okay, Grandpa?" "I'm dying. But that's not what this is about." He pulled out a thick folder from his desk. "This is about your father, your brothers, and the kind of men they've become. And it's about you being the only person in this family who has any integrity left." "Grandpa," I said, "don't interrupt." His voice was firm but kind. "I've been watching this family for decades. Your father, my son, turned into everything I never wanted him to be. Greedy, cruel, obsessed with status. Your brothers followed his example perfectly. They see people as transactions, relationships as investments, morality as weakness." "I know," I said quietly. "I've lived with it my whole life." "Yes, you have. And somehow, despite growing up surrounded by their values, you became a teacher. You chose a career helping kids who can't afford private schools, kids from broken homes, kids who need someone to believe in them. Do you know how rare that is? It's what felt right." "Exactly. It felt right. Not profitable, not prestigious, not impressive at cocktail parties. Right." He opened the folder. "That's why I'm leaving my entire estate to you. $90 million, Cameron. Every penny." I stared at him. "Grandpa, I don't need that much money." I know you don't need it. That's exactly why you should have it. Your father and brothers need money like addicts need drugs. They'll never have enough. But you? You'd use it wisely, help people, make a real difference." He paused. "But there's a problem." "What problem?" If I leave everything to you directly, your family will destroy you. They'll contest the will, tie you up in legal battles for years, make your life miserable. Your father will use every dirty trick he knows, and he knows plenty. You'll win eventually, the will is ironclad, but the process will be hell. So what do we do? Grandpa smiled, a strange, calculating smile I'd never seen before. We make you give it up. What? You're going to decline the inheritance, Cameron. Voluntarily, publicly, in front of your entire family. You're going to sign papers saying you don't want the money. I don't understand. When you decline, the inheritance passes to your father and brothers under the contingent beneficiary clause. They'll get exactly what they want, my money, split between them. They'll think they've won. They'll think you're the biggest fool alive. But why would I do that? Because, Grandpa said, leaning forward with that same calculating smile, the money they inherit comes with conditions they don't know about. Conditions hidden in the trust documents, conditions that will activate 6 months after they take possession. And when those conditions activate, they won't just lose the money. They'll lose everything. He spread documents across his desk. I've spent 2 years setting this up with my lawyers. The inheritance your father and brothers will receive is poisoned, Cameron. It's designed to expose every illegal thing they've done, destroy their reputations, and leave them with nothing. What are you talking about? What illegal things? Grandpa's expression darkened. Your father has been committing securities fraud for 15 years. Your brothers have been helping him. They've been running schemes that have destroyed countless people's savings and retirements. I've been investigating them, documenting everything, and I've found evidence of crimes that will send all 3 of them to prison. I felt sick. You're sure? Completely sure. I hired private investigators, forensic accountants, the best people money can buy. Your father and brothers are criminals, Cameron. Sophisticated criminals who've gotten away with it because they're smart and connected. But they're still criminals. Why not just report them to the authorities? Because family is complicated. Because part of me kept hoping they'd change. Because I wanted to give them one last chance to show some decency. He pulled out another document. That's where you come in. When you decline the inheritance, I'm leaving instructions for you to give your father a letter. A letter I've already written. In that letter, I'll explain everything. I'll tell him I know what he's done, that I've documented all of it, and that I'm giving him a choice. What choice? He can keep the money, but if he does, all the evidence goes to the FBI in 6 months. Automatic, unavoidable. Or he can confess everything, turn himself and your brothers in, and maybe get reduced sentences through cooperation. The inheritance is his chance to do the right thing for once in his miserable life. And if he chooses the money, then he and your brothers go to prison for a very long time, and the government seizes everything they have, including the inheritance. Either way, they lose. But one way, they might retain some dignity. The other way, they lose everything including their freedom. I sat back, processing all of this. What happens to the money if they confess or go to prison? It goes to a charitable trust I've established. Run by you if you want. $90 million helping kids like the ones you teach, funding education programs, giving opportunities to people who actually deserve them. And what do I get out of this? Grandpa smiled. You get to watch your father's face when he realizes his smartest son outsmarted him. You get to walk away clean while they drown in consequences. You get to know you did the right thing. Plus, I'm leaving you something separate, something they won't know about. $5 million in an overseas account, accessible only to you, to be revealed after the dust settles. You'll be fine, Cameron. Better than fine. This is insane. This is justice. Your father ruined lives for profit. Your brothers helped him. They deserve this. He looked at me intently. The question is, are you strong enough to do it? Strong enough to stand there and decline $90 million while they laugh at you? Strong enough to hand your father a letter knowing it will destroy him? I thought about all the years of being mocked, dismissed, treated like I'd failed in life because I chose teaching over finance. I thought about my father's victims, people whose retirement savings disappeared into his schemes. I thought about what Grandpa was offering, not money, but justice. I'll do it, I said. Over the next year, Grandpa and I planned everything. He introduced me to his team of lawyers who walked me through the trust documents, the conditions, the timeline. He showed me the evidence against my father and brothers, emails, transaction records, testimony from whistleblowers. It was overwhelming and damning. Why did you even investigate them? I asked during one planning session. Because 3 years ago, your father tried to steal from me. He thought I was getting too old to notice that he could skim money from accounts he managed for me. But I noticed. And when I confronted him, he lied to my face. That's when I started digging, and I found so much worse than simple theft. Grandpa made me memorize exactly what to do. How to act surprised when the will was read. How to seem conflicted about declining. How to make it look like a genuine, if stupid, choice. They need to believe you're really giving up the money, he coached. If they suspect it's a setup, they'll be more cautious. But if they think you're just naive and idealistic, they'll take the money without question. What do I say when they ask why I'm declining? Tell them it doesn't feel right, that you don't deserve it, that you want the money to go to family who needs it more. Play into their belief that you're weak and foolish. Let them think you're making an emotional decision instead of a smart one. 6 months after these planning sessions started, Grandpa Arthur died. Peacefully in his sleep, with me holding his hand. My father and brothers showed up to the funeral in expensive suits, playing the role of grieving family. But I saw them whispering to each other, calculating, already thinking about the inheritance. The will reading was scheduled for 2 weeks after the funeral. The attorney, Malcolm Porter, had been Grandpa's lawyer for 40 years and was the only person besides me who knew the full plan. Everyone gathered in his office, my parents, my brothers, Preston's wife Audrey, Garrett's girlfriend Sienna, and me. Malcolm read through the preliminary items. Small bequests to charities, a few personal items to friends. Then he got to the main part. To my grandson Cameron Wells, I leave my entire estate, including all property, investments, accounts, and assets, currently valued at approximately $90 million. The room exploded. Preston jumped to his feet. That can't be right. All of it? To Cameron. That's ridiculous, Garrett said. He's a teacher. He doesn't know anything about managing that kind of money. My father's face was red. This is unacceptable. My father was elderly, clearly not thinking straight. Cameron must have influenced him. Mr. Wells, Malcolm interrupted calmly, your father was of completely sound mind when he executed this will. Multiple doctors have certified his mental competence. And there's no evidence of undue influence. We're contesting this, my mother said firmly. There's no way Cameron deserves everything while David gets nothing. You're welcome to contest, Malcolm said. But I should tell you the will is ironclad. You won't win. They argued for another 20 minutes while I sat quietly, watching. Finally, Malcolm held up his hand. There is one thing, he said. Cameron has the right to decline the inheritance if he chooses. If he does, it passes to the contingent beneficiaries listed in the will, which are David, Preston, and Garrett Wells, to be divided equally. Everyone turned to look at me. You wouldn't decline, my father said slowly. That would be insane. Cameron, my mother said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. Please think about this. That's your grandfather's life work. You can't just give it away. Preston leaned forward. Look, we can work something out. Maybe you don't need all 90 million. Maybe we could arrange a split that's more fair to everyone. More fair meaning you get most of it? I said. Meaning we're family. We should share. I stood up and walked to Malcolm's desk. I'd like to decline the inheritance. What? Preston's voice cracked. You can't be serious, Garrett said. Cameron, sit down, my father commanded. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking very clearly, I said. Grandpa left me this money, but I don't feel right taking all of it. You're his son, I said to my father. Preston and Garrett are his grandsons too. It's not fair that I get everything and you get nothing. Finally, some sense, my mother said, relief washing over her face. Malcolm, we can arrange a fair split. No, I interrupted. I'm declining completely. The money goes to Dad, Preston, and Garrett as contingent beneficiaries, split equally. That's what feels right. My father stared at me. You're giving up $90 million? Yes. To us. Yes. And that's when he started laughing. That hysterical, mocking laughter that said he thought I was the stupidest person alive. Oh my God, he gasped between laughs. Oh, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Preston and Garrett joined in, grinning at each other. He actually did it, Preston said. He actually gave up $90 million. We tried to stop you, Garrett said with fake concern. We tried to warn you, but you were so determined to do the right thing. My mother was hugging my father, laughing and crying at the same time. They were already discussing what they'd do with the money, how they'd invest it, what they'd buy. Malcolm looked at me. Cameron, are you absolutely certain? Once you sign these papers, the decision is irrevocable. I'm certain. I signed the declination documents while my family celebrated around me. They were so happy, so relieved, so convinced they'd won. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope Grandpa had given me a year ago. Before you celebrate too much, I said, Grandpa told me to give you this. He said you'd need to read it if I declined the inheritance. The laughter stopped. My father took the envelope suspiciously. What is this? It's a letter from Grandpa. He wanted you to have it. My father opened it, still half smiling, expecting maybe some sentimental farewell. But as he started reading, his face changed. The smile disappeared. Color drained from his cheeks. His hands began to shake. What does it say? My mother asked. My father couldn't speak. He just kept reading, his eyes getting wider, his breathing getting faster. Preston grabbed the letter from him and started reading aloud. Dear David, Preston, and Garrett. If you're reading this, Cameron has declined the inheritance and you're celebrating what you think is a windfall. Before you get too excited, there are some things you need to know. First, Cameron didn't decline because he's foolish. He declined because I asked him to, and because he's the only one in this family with integrity. Second, the inheritance you're receiving isn't what you think it is. The $90 million is real, and it's legally yours. But it comes with conditions you don't know about, conditions built into the trust structure that will activate exactly 6 months from today. Preston stopped reading. What conditions? Garrett grabbed the letter and continued. Here are your options. Option 1, you can keep the money. In 6 months, all the evidence I've gathered about your securities fraud, wire fraud, and racketeering will automatically be delivered to the FBI, the SEC, and the Massachusetts Attorney General. I've spent 2 years documenting every illegal transaction, every fraudulent scheme, every law you've broken. The evidence is comprehensive, damning, and completely legal. You'll all go to prison for 15 to 20 years, and the government will seize everything you have, including this inheritance. The room was completely silent now. Garrett's voice shook as he kept reading. Option 2, you can confess. You have 6 months to turn yourselves in, cooperate with authorities, and maybe get reduced sentences. If you do this, you keep your dignity and possibly reduce your prison time through cooperation. The inheritance will be forfeited, but you'll avoid the worst consequences. This is a joke, my father said hoarsely. A sick joke. Option 3, Garrett continued reading. You can do nothing and hope I'm bluffing. But I'm not bluffing. My lawyers have everything locked in place. The evidence exists, the timeline is set, and nothing can stop it now. You have 6 months to decide how you want this to end. Preston snatched the letter back. Why are you doing this to us? We're your family. Cameron is your favorite, and you're punishing us for not being more like him. He kept reading. This isn't about favoritism. It's about justice. You've destroyed lives, David. You've stolen retirement savings from hardworking people who trusted you. Preston and Garrett, you've helped him, learned from him, continued his legacy of theft and lies. I gave you every opportunity to change, to be better men, and you chose greed every single time. My mother was crying now, but not tears of joy. This can't be legal. You can't set up conditions like this. Actually, Malcolm said quietly, it's completely legal. Arthur structured the trust carefully. The evidence exists independent of the inheritance. The timeline is automatic. The conditions are just information, not coercion. My father turned to me, his face twisted with rage. You knew about this. You've known all along. Yes, I said calmly. Grandpa told me everything a year before he died. He showed me the evidence against you. He explained the plan. And he asked me if I was strong enough to stand here and decline $90 million while you laughed at me. You smug little. He also told me, I continued, that if you chose to confess and cooperate, you might get reduced sentences. Maybe 5 to 7 years instead of 15 to 20. You'd lose the money, but you'd keep some dignity. You might even mate. I had a relationship with Mom. My mother looked at my father. Is it true? Did you do what the letter says? Helen, did you steal from people? Did you commit fraud? My father's silence was answer enough. She stood up and walked out without another word. Preston was still reading the letter. There's more. It says, "To Cameron, if you're still in the room, you should know that I'm prouder of you than I've ever been of anyone. You chose principle over money, teaching over prestige, helping others over helping yourself. You're the man I always hoped my son would be. I love you, and I hope you use what I've really left you to change the world the way you've already changed so many lives. Check with Malcolm about the account in the Cayman Islands." Everyone turned to look at me. What does that mean? Garrett demanded. It means, Malcolm said, that Arthur established a separate account for Cameron. $5 million, completely independent of the primary inheritance, to be revealed only after Cameron declined and after this letter was read. $5 million. Preston's voice cracked. He still gets $5 million? For doing the right thing, Malcolm confirmed. For being the kind of man Arthur respected. And unlike your inheritance, Cameron's comes with no conditions, no timelines, no evidence of crimes attached. My father lunged at me, but Preston grabbed him. You set us up, Dad hissed. You and the old man set us up. No, I said. You set yourselves up. Every fraudulent transaction, every stolen dollar, every lie you told, that was you. Grandpa just documented it. And now you have 6 months to decide what kind of men you want to be. Do you keep the money and go to prison? Or do you confess and try to salvage something? We'll fight this, Garrett said desperately. We'll find a way around it. There is no way around it, Malcolm said. Arthur spent 2 years making sure of that. The evidence exists in multiple locations, with multiple law firms, all with instructions to release it on a specific date. You can't stop it, can't bribe your way out of it, can't destroy the evidence. Your only choice is how you respond. My father sank into a chair, looking older suddenly, defeated. Why did he hate us so much? He didn't hate you, I said. He hated what you became. He gave you every advantage, every opportunity, and you chose to become criminals. You chose greed over integrity, profit over people. This is consequences, not hate. I walked to the door, then turned back. You have 6 months. I suggest you spend it making the right choice for once in your lives. Not for Grandpa, not for me, but for yourselves. I left them there in Malcolm's office, my father broken, my brothers panicking, my family destroyed by their own greed, and my grandfather's perfect revenge. The next 6 months were strange. I didn't hear from my family at all, not a single call or text. I went back to teaching, telling no one except my closest friend what had really happened. I had access to the $5 million now, but I didn't touch it yet, wanting to wait until everything was resolved. I followed the news carefully. 3 months after the will reading, my father, Preston, and Garrett all turned themselves in to federal authorities. They confessed to everything, provided evidence against their co-conspirators, and accepted plea deals. My father got 7 years. Preston got 6. Garrett got 5. They forfeited the $90 million inheritance, which went into the charitable trust Grandpa had established. My mother divorced my father 2 weeks after his arrest. Preston's wife, Audrey, left him immediately. Garrett's girlfriend disappeared. The news covered the story extensively. Prominent investment banker and sons plead guilty to multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. The articles detailed how many people they'd hurt, how much money they'd stolen. The victims finally got some justice, though many would never recover their losses completely. I received one letter from my father, sent from prison 6 months into his sentence. It was short. Cameron, I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. But I want you to know I understand now why Dad did what he did. We deserved this. All of it. We were given every advantage, and we chose to hurt people for profit. You were right to help him stop us. I hope someday I can be even a fraction of the man you are. Dad. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. The $90 million charitable trust, now called the Arthur Wells Foundation, began operations a year after Grandpa's death. As he'd planned, I was offered the position of executive director. I accepted, leaving teaching to run the foundation full-time. We fund educational programs for underserved students. We provide scholarships to kids who want to become teachers. We help families who lost money to financial fraud. Every dollar is used to help people, to create opportunities, to build the kind of world Grandpa believed in. I kept teaching part-time though, 2 classes at my old school, because that connection to students was too important to lose completely. The $5 million Grandpa left me? I used part of it to buy a modest house and invested the rest conservatively. I don't need luxury. I need purpose. 3 years after that day in Malcolm's office, I visited Grandpa's grave. I told him about the foundation, about the students we'd helped, about my father and brothers finally facing consequences. I told him about Mom, who'd rebuilt her life and actually apologized to me for years of treating me like a disappointment. "You did it, Grandpa," I said to his headstone. "You got justice, you protected your money from being used for evil, and you proved that sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves with their own choices." I like to think he heard me. People ask me sometimes if I regret giving up $90 million. They can't understand why I'd walk away from that kind of money. But they don't understand what I actually did. I didn't give up $90 million. I helped deliver justice to criminals who happen to be my family. I helped create a foundation that does real good in the world. I helped prove that integrity isn't just something you have when it's convenient, it's something you have when it costs you everything. And most importantly, I helped show my father and brothers that their way of living, the pursuit of money above all else, the belief that wealth equals worth, was fundamentally broken. They're in prison now, but I hope they're learning that lesson. I hope they're becoming better men. My grandfather didn't just leave me money. He left me a choice. Be like them, or be like him. Choose easy money built on others' suffering, or choose the harder path of actually helping people. Choose to laugh at someone giving up an inheritance, or choose to understand why walking away from tainted money is the smartest move you can make. I chose. And watching my father's laughter turn to horror as he read that letter was worth more than $90 million could ever be. Have you ever walked away from something valuable because accepting it would compromise who you are? Have you watched family members choose money over morality and faced consequences? Have you ever been laughed at for doing the right thing only to be vindicated later? Share your stories in the comments below. I want to hear about times you chose integrity over wealth, principle over profit, and how it turned out. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real stories about families who worship money and the moment they discover some things matter more than wealth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that walking away from the wrong money is smarter than keeping it. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the stupidest looking decision is actually the smartest move you could make. And sometimes watching someone laugh at you is worth it when you get to watch them realize they're the ones who lost everything.